Good evening, everyone. Firstly, like the previous speakers, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today, the Muwinina people, to pay respect to those that have passed before us, and to acknowledge today's Tasmanian Aboriginal people who are the custodians of this land. I believe this acknowledgement is very important, and I don't just want to pay lip service to it. We at AMES Australia support refugees and migrants, so we understand the significance that people place on their homelands and their investment in a sense of place. And this is why we must take a moment to think about the people who originally settled in these lands and the traditions and their values that they have passed down to us. Just a little bit about AMES Australia. For those of you who don't know us, we are a migrant and refugee settlement agency. We support people who are newly arrived to settle and orient themselves to a new society. We help them learn English and vocational skills, and we help them get jobs. And we do this through the lens of fostering social cohesion and building community capacity in a holistic way, thus hopefully contributing and maximizing the benefits of migration and multiculturalism to our country. We deliver services in Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, and here in Tasmania, in partnership with the Migrant Resource Centre Tasmania. And I want to acknowledge their CEO, Alison O'Neill, who is here with us tonight, and also her fantastic team for the work they do in supporting refugees and diverse communities here in Tasmania. I would also like to acknowledge our other distinguished guests who are here tonight, and of course all of you, all of us, colleagues, collaborators, new friends, old friends, who are absolutely passionate and believe in contributing to the multicultural sector and to building a better society. Just a little bit of an aside, I came across an interesting piece of information this week. For the first time in history, numbers of international migrants are now growing faster than the world's population generally. So that means migration and diversity are becoming a global norm. But at the same time, and sadly, with the rise of populist and nationalist political movements, more and more countries are becoming less welcoming to migrants, and especially less welcoming to refugees and people seeking sanctuary from conflict, violence, and oppression. In Europe, as you well know, there is a trend towards closing borders to migrants, and the US's refugee intake has plummeted in recent years and may well be headed towards historically low levels. As you will also know, we are currently witnessing one of the largest migration crises in history, with more than 70 million people displaced around the globe. This is why it's so important that we continue to advocate for and to champion Australia's refugee settlement and migration programs. It's particularly important that community groups and individuals get involved in welcoming newcomers to this country. I know that there are many community groups represented here tonight, So I'd like to acknowledge from my heart the work that you do in welcoming newly arrived refugees and migrants. Business and industry also play a critical role and must recognize and harness the skills and experience migrants and refugees bring with them. We know that it can be difficult, especially for refugees, to find work in Australia. So we have to do more work to help them overcome the significant barriers that exist. But it's also important to remember that the reason refugees come to Australia is not just to work and contribute to our economy, although they generally do so. It is because they are in need of protection. For them to remain in their homelands means being subjected to violence, persecution, or worse. And as you well know, many refugees who have found their way to Australia have suffered torture or trauma. Some have lost everything they owned or held dear, and others have lost family members. We at AMES Australia never cease to be inspired by the resilience, determination, and ingenuity shown by our migrant, refugee, and asylum seeker clients. And we are very well aware of the contribution they make and of the skills, creativity, and rich social capital they bring with them. So to conclude, I won't go much longer. Perhaps our most important challenge, and a challenge for everyone in this room and beyond this room, is to make the rest of Australia understand the value to this nation that migrants and refugees represent. Thank you, and continue to enjoy your dinner.